What's up, my friends? How's everybody doing out there? It's Carpo here. It's February 14th, 2019, or Valentine's Day, so I thought I'd just make a quick video and talk about pain a little bit, because that's what was on my mind today. I started this video and then I kind of started rambling, but I just restarted it and then realized, well, that's just kind of how it goes. These particular subjects, it's really hard for me to convey, but I can start off with physical pain, which the reason why I'm standing up right now, usually I sit in my chair, but I can't even sit down because my back hurts so bad that if I sit too long, then when I stand back up, I'll be crippled for a little while I kind of recover. And years ago I was in construction and I messed up my L4 and L5. My spine, basically I have subluxation of the spine, which is kind of a general catch-all term for back pain. And working in construction, you tend to grind and grind and grind. And I'm 6'3", so I tend to grind down even more since I'm leaning down more. And over a long period of time, of course, my back started hurting, and I was one of the unlucky ones to get sciatic pain. Anyone who's had sciatica will tell you it's probably the worst pain they've ever had. But I could say that it's only rivaled by probably some of the toothaches that I've had in the past. But maybe not even that, actually. The interesting thing about pain is that it can come from something as small as an infected tooth. Just one little nerve. That's all it takes to be in just dire pain. With the tooth, you can't put pressure on it, or ease it, or move any weird directions to change it, change the pain level. It's just consistent and throbbing. And since I got my teeth fixed, I've been really grateful that I don't have to go through that. But of course, I still have a couple needed to get fixed, and that is going to probably solve the problem of the pain that I've had lately. But anyhow, kind of rambling again. I wanted to just say that, my sciatica started acting up again about, a week ago. And I don't know if it was from moving stereos around or, cleaning my house. We were doing a lot of moving of stuff around. And what I found over the years when I had it is that when I really move a lot of heavy things one day, it will take about 3 or 4 days for it to catch up to me. It's the strangest thing, but it's always in this, as if it goes through a process after I do the work. I don't know if it's inflammation or what, or maybe it's inflamed, then it subsides and pulls the spine. Point is, it doesn't matter. I know pain. I know physical pain. And it sucks. It really brings down your mood, your demeanor. I haven't been making as many videos as I usually do. I mean, usually I have all this stuff that I'm interested in, and I'm, writing, working a little bit on my book, and doing some other things. Honestly, some of the time I've just been, finish what I have to do with work, and then just kind of sit and maybe watch shows. Maybe I'll go around and clean, but I've been watching TV shows like on Netflix, and I know if I'm doing that, then maybe I'm in a negative mindset because of my pain. But I just don't know, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here. Because I've also had mental pain, depression, anxiety that was crippling. And in my early 30s, I was so anxious all the time that I felt like nothing would ease my tension. It's the only time in my life I went to a doctor willingly to ask for a prescription. And I told him I wanted Valium. I was very specific because I knew it worked and it helped me. And he gave me a short-term prescription for some, another benzodiazepine, Klonopin, and then a long-term prescription for buspirone. So I started taking the buspirone, then I started getting what they call the brain zaps, and if you've ever had those, you know that they're very uncomfortable. It's like 1 minute you're just feeling normal, and then all of a sudden you just get this sense of kind of like a small electrical shock, as if you're kind of waking up. It's a very strange feeling and very disturbing, and it's not fun. This comes from a lot of pharmaceuticals that people take that they don't even realize. It's just become a normal way of life. And so they tend to ignore that. But the point is that we're all trying to ease our pain, because if we have less pain, then we're more productive. Because during the times when I have the most pain, I feel the least productive. And I really don't have the motivation to do anything. It's like it takes all you have. We have limited willpower, and it takes all you have just to keep a smile on your face, and not be grumpy about it. And as positive as you may be, no matter what your outlook like may be. I mean, it's funny when I see people who are just all about, like, life is grand and it should always be happiness and everyone should be happy all the time. I just think it's impossible. You just haven't had somebody you love die yet, or had your leg blown off in the war. You know, everybody, even those situations we can learn to overcome, of course. But still, when you're unable to walk, let's say you have no legs, then that's going to cause you a little bit of mental pain for a time being until you overcome it. Well, having no friends or no family in your life can cause you mental anguish, which can make it just as hard to go out and do things. So there's no way to really belittle mental anguish. And so it's important. I conquered my anxiety over time by letting go of shit and just saying, fuck it, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to sit and worry about trivial things in my life that I can't control. But one caution I would have if you take that approach is don't let things that you do have control over be sucked into that and say, well, it doesn't matter either. And that's what's happened to me. Basically, I have a really hard time getting anything done. I'm not very motivated to do paperwork and the legal things I need to do, and I feel like I'm just kind of, everything's caving in on me. And I guess I'm saying all this because I want people to know that I'm a fucking human, just like you, that I'm a normal person, and I think most of you know that, but, you know, some of the comments I've had in the past, people just have this image that, wow, your life must be great, you must be floating on unicorn rainbows, and, you know, it's just not the reality. It's not where we live, you know. Nobody lives in that mindset long term. It's the same reason that I completely dismiss the idea of utopia, and I dismiss the idea of a heaven where nothing bad happens. The whole idea is completely goes against the grain of everything we know about life, the ups and downs. So when I have a low, I know that I'm going to have a good up coming after that. Often after I get a cold or a virus and I feel sick for a day or two, right after that I just feel wonderful. It's as if my body's recharged. And who knows, maybe viruses play some role in that in our lives. You know, they're very ancient creatures. That whole, you know, area is fascinating as well. But before I forget it, one of the main points I wanted to make here was that sometimes it's okay to just be a little depressed seasonally, or to not be doing the things that we might want to be doing now. And so let me give you an example. I've been watching this show, which actually resonates with a lot of these things. It's the worst show. It's The 100. It's actually a pretty good show. It's called The 100, and it's about AI that nukes the world, and then long term these people are living in space for 100 years, then they have to come back to the irradiated Earth. You know, I watched a couple seasons of it, and it's pretty interesting. It keeps you, you know, entertained. But I was more fascinated with some of the premises within the movie. But during the movie, not to give it away, spoiler alert, fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this, if you're going to watch it, but they take these little pills which make all your pain go away. And they find out long term that other things went along with their pain, their bad memories, which were also their memories. And there's a lot of very symbolic metaphors within there. But the one point I wanted to make about it was how interesting it was. I can watch the show and just pick it apart, as I always do. I hate television shows because there's so much bullshit in it. But the one thing is, I can't root for anybody in the whole show because they're all fucking morons. They all do stupid shit. They all break their pacts and rules, and they lie to each other. It's completely ridiculous. Like, I would have left all these groups long ago and gone to do my own thing. If you've seen the show, you might not know what I mean. But it's not the way a normal, that situation would probably go. But that doesn't matter because it's entertainment value that we're after. You know, it's the there's so many things that they could have done or should have done. The distances between places are way farther or way closer than they should be. But it doesn't matter because you're following the storyline. And if you start to look at the details, you start to realize, oh, this is a piece of shit. The reason I bring that up is because it's the same way with people online, YouTube, elsewhere. Like I said about the people that think life's about, unicorn rainbows. It's the reality is that when you look closer, everyone has those flaws and those loopholes in their lives, those problems. There is no guru that is like going to take... I don't remember the guy's name. I saw it on Vice the other day, actually. I think it was yesterday. It was just a little clip on YouTube about this guy and this compound where you pay not compound, sorry, that's what always comes to mind when I think of cults and this kind of stuff. But basically a guru, a self-professed 30-year-old guru who you paid a couple $1,000s and you go to his retreat. And, you know, as they went to kind of see what he did at his retreat, basically when he went to speak to all the people, he spent the first 8 minutes just sitting there silently and smiling. And then, starts acting all, ooh, isn't silence amazing? You know, what? When I see these guys, I just can't help but be like, you're so full of shit, you don't even see it. You can't live in that utopia forever. And there will be people who have real pain that aren't millionaire young men who have good looks and, you know, a lot of, you know, let's just say the ethos, the ability to carry yourself and express yourself well. And when I see guys like that, I think, I'm just so glad I'm not like that I have no interest in fooling people. But then I look closer and I say, maybe he really believes what he's saying. And that's the other problem. People who convince themselves of these things, they continue down this path, but other people could, let's just say that they're the people who need things the most, the people who need to overcome their pain the most, are the most vulnerable and the most likely to listen to what somebody else has to tell them often. And the only types of people that would seek out this type of, you know, spiritual retreat, whatever you might call it, which is something I used to deem valuable. I used to think these things help people, and sometimes they do. But here's the problem. When you go off to a beautiful place and have a yoga retreat or whatever it might be for a week, of course you're going to feel good. It has absolutely nothing to do with the guru that is doing the speeches or any type of spiritual awareness that you're gaining from the experience, in my opinion. But rather, I guess spiritual is kind of a loaded word, but what I mean is that there's nothing the people are giving you that you couldn't get if you were willing to look for it in yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of us aren't able to look for it in ourselves, so we go to what we call an expert. So I would just say, be careful with those kinds of guys. And I don't know how I got from pain to gurus, but I think I was thinking about how I've heard a lot of these guys talk about how, you know, you're not really hurting, you know, you're not your body, you're just a spirit in this body. And they speak all calm and collected, and like I said, the guy sat for 8 minutes. Well, that's what Eckhart Tolle does. And that guy, I can't help it. I consider myself an open-minded person who is completely immersed in the experience of life. I look at everything around me and see the wonder. I agree with so many of the points guys like this make, but Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle, completely different attitudes, completely different demeanors. Both of them just bore the hell out of me. And they don't resonate with my own experience of life. But a good example is Deepak, who makes a lot of money off of what he does. His own son wrote wrote like a book exposing him, or a documentary, I think it was, and for the fraud he is. And he's an example, I think, of how do you know that this person doesn't really believe what they're saying. But he goes up and poses himself against scientists and says, but you don't understand the quantum realm, and this is quantum, and he uses that word quantum all the time as if he understands these things. He uses quantum entanglement or non-locality, all of these terms that were gotten from science. Yet he dismisses the scientific theories of them. In other words, it's pretty fascinating to watch people convince themselves that something is true. So, before I sound like I'm just tearing everybody apart, I should maybe make the point that it's not about dismissing everything that you hear or not believing anyone or anything. It kind of reminds me of, like, you know, proper nihilism, I might call it, which was eliminating all doubt, all bullshit, all human value systems, and everything that's placed upon you by your program. But doing so at a time in your life when you're able to develop your own sense of what's right and wrong, based on what you've actually seen in the world. If you get all your information from the internet, and your selective bias takes you to just the pages you want to see, you might think that the world's on fire. And in some ways it is, but like I said, it really depends on what we seek out as to how we see things. And so people are making enemies out of each other. It's, you know, God against science type of mentality. People are debating things that nobody understands. It's the idea of infinity. This mathematician was totally harassed because he believes infinity doesn't exist. And I'm like, you guys are postulating bullshit and speculating on these wild notions that you can't even understand yourself. And people will say, well, of course there's infinity. You just keep adding 1 and 1 and 1. You're like, but what if there's not enough time in the universe to add another 1? And who's going to count up to 1? In other words, if you can't show it as infinity, it's not a thing. It may be an idea. But that's just it. Does it matter? Is it worth arguing anything past that? Because will infinity affect us as an average person in our lives? Probably not. We can't even comprehend trillion or a quadrillion, or a Googleplex. I mean, these numbers are far too large. So, my point being that we're kind of peons, and arguing about this shit is just going nowhere. Arguing about, what God wants, or whether or not you should have an ego. Now, this is my opinion right here. I think that we as humans are meant to live our lives on this earth, experience, maybe not meant to, but our best bet in living in this world is to watch those around us, see how they behave, see what works and doesn't work for other people, then look at the people who seem the most desperate to prove themselves and how successful they are, then look at those who seem content, who are just living their lives, and say, what have they done right or wrong? And then actually ask people, are you happy? I mean, there have been so many studies done in the last century compared to what we knew 100 years ago about what really brings us happiness. And even though a person may say, they're just studies, they don't mean anything, a lot of these are actually done, over many nations, and you really can get an idea of what makes people happy. Money over a certain amount doesn't do it, but money under a certain amount makes you miserable. So we are kind of stuck. Knowing the balances is what's crucial. Making all the money you want and then not living your life or not spending it with your children, that's a choice people make and then they regret. And so it's all up to the individual. We justify ourselves, we make excuses about the things we think are right in our lives. Just hopefully we don't dismiss others outright just because we think that we're right about what we want to believe. And so that's why I can sit here and say, good for Deepak Chopra, good for Eckhart Tolle, good for all these guys if it's working for them. But if you want to argue against the science that you're using, it's kind of hard to take it seriously. In other words, show me the fucking money, people. That's kind of where we all come from, At this point, it's, people are starting to kind of fall off the bandwagon of just having faith and believing in something because they've been told it's true. And that's changing the paradigm of religion. Catholicism, Christianity are on the decline. I think over a period of time we're going to see a more secular society, but I don't want to see an atheist society that's out, saying, there is nothing great in the universe. I don't think that'll ever happen. I'm just spitting some of my thoughts out, I feel like I'm alone in this world in so many ways. And I'm kind of trapped in a corner where I'm so grateful that I have people that understand me on an emotional level. My wife, my friends, we know each other and understand each other in a way that we can connect and have, enjoy our time together. But when it comes to me, myself, and I'm still learning how to get along with my other selves, if you will. And so before I go, I should make really the main point I wanted to make. And I keep forgetting, as I start talking about it, I ramble. The idea that it's okay to just have a time where you do watch shows, or you do something else, or you are lazy for a bit, especially in the winter. In the Pacific Northwest, it's cold. I know that. And I look at it as a routine. And so I made a chart that I'm going to share probably in a separate video. But it's cycles within cycles, and it's something I wanted to do for a long time. Maybe I could, but basically what it is we've got the outer life circle, that's the whole of your life, then a year cycle, a day cycle, and then the mental cycles that we go through. And each one, I wrote them out with sections so I could understand them. So, for example, for life it's birth, youth, adolescence, adulthood, elderly, and then death. And death is the rest, birth is the renewal. Well, each year it's the same thing. Spring is renewal, summer is exploration, the adulthood, fall is the work, the harvest, and the winter is the time to rest. And in the day, we awaken in the morning, we work, we learn, and then we sleep, and that's the rest. I pictured these cycles in my mind forever. And what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is these daily cycles that we have, these emotional cycles where one minute we feel good, the next minute we're like, damn it, where'd that good feeling go? And that's the norm. That's the roller coaster. They may not be extreme differences, but it can be really frustrating if for a week straight you're motivated to do something that you're really interested in, and then all of a sudden you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And nowhere is that felt more strongly than in colleges, where kids take courses and they spend a lot of money to take a class that they find out that they're just not interested in. And they've spent, $100,000 on schooling that they can't even, or don't want to use. And so, everybody's got their own issues, right? So I better go. This video's gotten long. Gonna go pick up the kids from school, do the Valentine's Day, stuff. Have a nice fire, get warm because my hands are cold out here. It's freezing in my little office. And so that's my Thursday ramble. Hope y'all are well. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Yeah.